All right. We're still probably about 15 to 20 people short, but that's normal, right, for Southern California due to traffic. Well, good morning, Europe. Good morning, Switzerland. Good morning, SoCal. The sun is just breaking through the clouds, so we feel comfortable. If it's too gray, we don't. Welcome to this first opportunity meetup for medical technology and life science in 2024. We have a great and full-packed program today, but I want to quickly start with something that is only minimal linked to life science and MedTech. So I'm Matt Hauser. I'm the chairman of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce here for SoCal, and I'm originally from Zurich, Switzerland. And you might know about Switzerland, right? Watches, chocolate, things like that. We are, you know, a very rural, a very, let's say, tribe-driven country originally. And just earlier this week, we have, we had one of our common and very popular events, and it's called the Sechseläuten. Not sexy, sexy. Yeah? So that means all the church bells in the city of Zurich, they ring up right at 6 o'clock in the evening, and we start to burn a snowman and ride with horses around it. Sounds exciting, right? And a little bit freaky, but it's one of the biggest events actually Zurich has throughout the year. It's very popular. And the fact of the matter is, you know, depending on how long it takes until the head of the böck, we call the snowman, explodes, that's how long it's going to take until the summer starts, right? So if it takes an hour to pop it up, the summer is going to be very short. And if it pops up very quick, then we have a beautiful summer. Now, this year, they couldn't even burn the böck because it was too windy. I think the first time in 150 years that there was no ritual killing of a snowman in Zurich. So we don't know, and science doesn't know how this is going to end up. Well, having said that, science, if you look at the 10 largest life science companies in the world, how many do you think are from Europe? Any guess? 4 is right. I heard 4. Exactly. So 6 out of those 10 are from the United States. 4 are from Switzerland. 4 are from Europe, I'm sorry. And 2 of those 4 are from Switzerland. So now you can actually see how important is the life science sector for a small open economy like Switzerland. And that's why the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce here really focuses on these branches within the life science industry. So MedTech, health tech, biotech, this is where one of our focus really lies, and that's why we're meeting here today. Our mission is that we, on one hand, open up the window to showcase to Southern California or Californian stakeholders within these different markets what Switzerland has to offer, right? To give you more insights, to give you more grasp to with whom could you work in the future? How would you work successfully in the future with Swiss business partners? And on the other hand, so learn about, educate about what can Switzerland offer you to make more business. And for our friends in Switzerland, this is a window that you can see how much Southern California has to offer for your business, for your MedTech, for your health tech business. There is a plethora of opportunities here, not only in terms of the size of the market. We have about 22 million people living here, so about 3 times the size of Switzerland. But we also have with San Diego, Orange County, 2 of the fastest growing life science markets in the United States. So This is really important to give the data points, the intelligence, the information about these two markets and how you actually can successfully work with them. At the Chamber, we do, of course, much more than just MedTech and life science. So I really encourage you, if you haven't followed us yet, do so, sign up, get our newsletters. We have events that are more on the social side, that we bring together the Swiss American business community, not always growth and materialistic driven. We partner up with other chambers, with our British friends, with our Mexican friends, with our French colleagues. So to really unite the community of the international business people much stronger to make more and better business. So having said that, I want to thank give a big thank you and kudos to our partners today. So first of all, I want to thank Planet Innovation and Kurt Pickle for hosting us here already the second time, and we consider Planet Innovation a very crucial partner of our efforts here. So big applause for Kurt. Do you want to say a couple words about Planet Innovation?
Is that okay? Is this? All right. So thanks everybody for coming today, and we're very happy to host an event like this. Kind of extend not only our reach into the different communities, but also letting everybody know what Planet Innovation is all about. We started about 15 years ago as I would say, a design consulting firm, and have grown since then. We bought into Southern California manufacturing about 2.5 years ago, and I think pretty much since then have been working with the chamber here. We do what we're considered a contract manufacturer, and so we have a pretty open book policy with regarding to our costs and what the impact is to our clients, and so I think that makes us a very powerful, I say, partner. We are continuing to grow. We're seeing very good growth here. We're pretty much over the last, last 6 months and next year, we're about 50% growth. So we are seeing a lot of new opportunities come into Southern California. A lot of companies wanting to manufacture here in the United States, particularly California, when it comes to medical devices. And so I think that this is a good place to be when you're in that space. So I'm happy to connect with anybody and answer any questions later on. And I hope you guys have a good day.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Appreciate. Yeah, applause. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. So I also want to thank our partners RSM for supporting us in many different areas, but especially in life science. John will say a little bit about that later on. I want to say thank you to Octane, our partners here, the Swiss MBA Association, the Swiss US Accelerator, and of course Transatlantic Partners Group for enablement and facilitation of today's event. Now, having said all of that, I want to hand over to my friend and colleague John Jenny, who is hosting on the content side today, and he will give you a little bit more overview of what we're going to do in the next hour. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Kurt and Planet Innovation, for allowing us to use this wonderful facility. I'm John Jenny. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Swiss American Chamber of Commerce, and I'm a transfer pricing senior advisor, senior director at RSM, the 5th largest audit, consulting, and tax firm in the world. A lot of people don't know that, but we're very proud to be here to be a sponsor of this event, because life sciences is part of our sweet spot. Life sciences and MedTech is something that is very critical to RSM and our client base. So we're very excited to be here to promote this type of activity. Today we're going to have a three-part program, I should say. First, we're going to have 4 pitches from 4 startup companies, 2 in the United States, 2 in Switzerland, and the gentlemen, our presenters from Switzerland will be coming in by video, and our 2 US presenters will be here in person. It would be a 5-minute pitch about the companies, what makes them tick, what's interesting about them, and then we'll have 5 minutes each for question and answer. So it's very quick, very short and sweet. After the pitches, we will have a panel discussion about recent trends in the MedTech space. And we hope that will be very interactive. We'll get lots of questions. And then at the end of the panel, then we will have a networking opportunity here in this room. So without further ado, we would like to start with our pitches. And our first presenter will be Stefan Vogt, who will be calling in from Switzerland with Mobile Health.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you, Stefan.
Wonderful, because I can't see anything of you in the audience. But anyway, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about mobile health and what we're doing. And Matthew, because the bird hasn't exploded, we are back to winter time here in Switzerland. So I wish I would be in LA at the moment. We in mobile health, we do evidence-based digital healthcare. What does it mean? At the moment, we're focusing on one of the most common illnesses, which is cancer, besides, as you all know, cardiac and diabetes morbidity. We see that cancer is one of the most common illness that is rising actually over the next couple of years. We see 20 million new cases worldwide, unfortunately, and we also see that the length of the therapy is about 6 months. Typically, we see 90% of the patient in an outpatient setting. During this time, the patient sees the doctor about 6 times. And because of the importance of this illness, there are about 6 cancer drugs per year on average that come new to market. Given this whole environment and the situation, there's a lot of undocumented data on the patient side, but also on the effectiveness of the drugs in real world. So when you look typically today at the patient journey of a patient, when you're diagnosed with the shock diagnosis of cancer, you have a lot of questions. You collect a lot of information. You need to understand the complexity of the therapy and the treatment. And typically what you do is you start the treatment with the treatment plan by the doctor, and you also plan regular visits. And then what happens almost every time is there are side effects that you haven't expected, the health is deteriorating, or you have new symptoms, whatever. And normally you call your doctor, you go to the hospital, you go to the practice, see him, and you then adjust dosage or have other drugs or even have to be hospitalized. So there are a lot of unplanned visits to the healthcare professional. And what we believe between these visits, there is no transparency of how the patient is really doing. So what we are doing is we're providing a solution to the doctor and the patient, which is called MedTech. Our solution is basically an app that you download to your mobile phone, and you track your symptoms, your well-being, your mental health, your medication that you have taken, and record that every day with the guidance of the app. You track the symptoms, which helps, on the other hand, the doctor also to see, even if you're not with him in the regular visit, how are you doing? The app has intelligence embedded, which means that the data that you enter as a patient will be analyzed by an algorithm, and you get real-time recommendations and alerts if something happens that is not usual. And what we see is with these recommendations, the patients feel more comfortable during the therapy, and the unplanned visits are being avoided. At the end of a certain duration, you can go to your doctor, you can share the data that you collected with your doctor and analyze what needs to be done. We also integrated telemonitoring devices, blood pressure, oximeter, ECG, whatever watches you want to wear, a blood test that he can take it home. So the doctor defines what kind of vital data he wants to see every day from the patient. Basically, with this kind of tool, we create evidence-based digital therapy. We empower the patient. The patient's in the middle of the therapy. He participates much better in the outcome and is much more satisfied with it. Medical adherence is higher. You can see that in studies, as with a therapy without this tool. We can optimize the therapy based on the data that the doctor gets in real time. And also, what is very important, the drug effectiveness is being tracked. In a world where you have around, I would say, 300 cancer drugs in the market already, and biosimilars coming out more and more, it's important to have an individual picture of the data of the patient. MeetUp, I think what we provide to the healthcare system are the following values. We can all prove these points in studies that we have conducted over the last couple of years. It's cost effective. It minimizes unnecessary healthcare visits. It's cutting the costs. It makes better use of the scarce medical profession. Patient is empowered. It puts him in the middle. You have a better communication between the doctor and the patient. We have predictive analytics in our system that predicts early and that help us to early intervene and personalize the care, also improving the outcomes. And of course, the treatment affordability, I think, is also a factor because it encourages patients and doctors to think about generics and other treatment options, and by that, reducing the expenses as well. So I think we have a pretty nice solution in the market to help treat patients better during this very bad diagnosis of having cancer. And with that, I conclude and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Stefan Vogt. We'd like to take a few minutes to see if there's any questions that people would like to raise, either here in Orange County or online. Any questions? Yeah.
Of course, the United States HIPAA is a big topic on these kind of applications. How do you deal with the integration of your application into the regulatory environment of health information protection?
I have to admit that we're not in the US market yet. We're looking into it and will be in the process of applying to FDA clearance most likely over the course of this year. But of course, when we do, we have to be HIPAA compliant. Otherwise, we will not have any chance to be successful in the US.
Any further questions?
What we do have, and I can say in Germany, and especially in Germany, we have very strict data protection rules for the patient that we have to follow. And I believe when you go over that hurdle with the GDPR requirements in Germany, you're pretty much fit for a lot of other markets.
All right, we have a question from our online audience for you, Stefan. From Shanti Ramakrishnan, has this solution been launched, and if so, where and how many patients are using this app?
We have launched the app in Switzerland yet. We're about to enter the German market. The app has been used by a couple of thousand patients. It has not been as much spread in the market as one would think. The main reason for that is that although everyone is talking about digitization and how we need it in the healthcare system, there's no payment for it. So the insurance companies are only starting now to understand that what the benefit is for the system, and they're reimbursing it in Switzerland and in France and Germany also. In Germany, we applied for it and hopefully get soon a reimbursement status. And that will lead to a higher spreading of the app. At the moment, it's most often used in clinical trials.
Okay. Stefan, thank you so much. We really appreciate your participation.
Sure, my pleasure.
I'd like to invite our next speaker, Kay Olmsted, CEO for Nana Pharma Solutions. And please have a seat there in the middle.
Have a seat.
Right there. Perfect.
Can I stand?
If you'd like, sure.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. Stefan talked about cancer, and cancer is our #1 killer of human race today. I want to talk about #2 killer, and that is neurodegeneration diseases. Can I help? Yes. April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and we are talking about neurodegeneration diseases. That is the second leading killers, and there are 7 million people who are suffering from Parkinson's, which is the second of the neurodiseases killer next to dementia and Alzheimer's. And that number is expected to double in 2040. And we can talk about whys during the network session. And here I want to tell you what we are doing to improve the quality and quantities of these people who are suffering from this debilitating disease. That is a slow killer. Cancer kills quickly, rather in terms of relative scale, but neurodegeneration can extend to decades, as you can imagine. And not only is the patients, it's the whole circle of the caregiver family and workforce. So in America, at least, government carries the most of the financial burden, but it's the patients who suffer. I have been in drug development for, I don't want to talk about how long, and touched about 35 new drug development, which I led 5 of them successfully through FDA approval and 1 through EMA. And about 5 years ago, in 2019, I got together with my college buddy who's in the nanotechnology material science, and we formed this company to improve the health of human being in general, and we are focusing on the delivering drugs, nanodrugs, to the brain as a direct delivery. Our leading program, as I mentioned, is for Parkinson's. All Parkinson's patients will develop what's called off episodes. They are all on the plethora of medications, and when the medication suddenly goes ineffective, and it just comes upon them. It's one part of the disease. And they develop motor function disability and shakings and just Parkinson's symptoms right away. So it is very embarrassing and impacting your daily life. It could happen during the workplace. It could happen during your date. So there's a rescue medicine. And that rescue medicine currently is an injectable. Think of yourself having this embarrassing moment and trying to fiddle with injections. And not only that, it's a very harsh medication, and it leaves injection site scarring, and patients just don't want to use it. And we are delivering this drug, life-saving drugs, as a convenient, instantaneous nasal spray. And it has to be a nanodrugs because it has to get to the brain in a minute, because to get back into their control of their lives. And it's fast and effective and directly to the brain. And one investor calls it's a Narcan in Parkinson's. Do you know Narcan? It's the lifesavers. Every policeman has one in their pocket. Next slide, please. So you might say, what about oral pills? Oral drugs in general takes a long time to get to the brain, and then only a fraction gets to the brain because it has to first get through your GI tract into the body, and the liver, breaks up most of it, and then finally it has to penetrate the brain. So you might say only a percentage of that gets to your brain, and very, very slowly in hours. And this drug doesn't even come in as an oral form. So we developed this new way of nanosizing drugs that uses no chemicals. We evaporate drugs and capture the vapor phase drugs without any chemicals involved. So it's perfect for the brain because it's clean. You don't want to put other chemicals into your brain and leave the other chemicals up there. And FDA has approved our approach is in manufacturing because we are the only one who evaporates drug in the world. We have to set up our own manufacturing plant in Atlanta, and we are going to clinical trial this year, toward the end of the year. We have a pipeline of drugs following this. Next one is ALS and traumatic brain injury. Think about NSF football player or our troops in the front line. And the third one is neuropathy. And I have assembled, other than my partner and I, a leadership team and leading Parkinson's experts who advise us through this program. I think that's about it. So in 15% of global populations are suffering with neurodiseases. If everybody lives long enough, we all die with cancer, and through it all, while we are being treated, we all get neurodegenerative diseases. And so between the two of us, we really need to develop effective, convenient, patient-centric drugs. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay Olmsted, Nanopharmaceuticals, Pharma Solutions. You just turn it off. No, keep it on. Just turn it off. Yeah. Questions? Yes.
Thank you. How shelf stable is the product, or at least the base, expected to be?
Oh, it's drug dependent. Every drug has different shelf lives, but it's years.
Okay.
It's in years.
And it doesn't require special storage, cold storage or anything?
I've shown you the example of Narcan. It's a single dose. It's all enclosed. So, it doesn't come into contact with the air or anything. So it's stable for month and month, and you just put one in the pocket.
Okay. Thank you.
It's called unidose. You just, spray and throw away plastic container. It's not environmentally, it's bio-waste or anything like needles.
Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, does this slow Parkinson's, stop Parkinson's? Is it a cure for Parkinson? Where does it fall in that line?
This is not, it's called the rescue medicine. It's for the off episodes.
Okay.
Parkinson's patients are on their main drugs. They're continuous injection through the stomach or taking 4 times a day different pills. That's the dopamine mimetic main drugs. And when the main drugs goes off, it's called off episodes, and they need rescue medicine. This is for their rescue medicine.
Great, thanks.
That's why it has to be fast acting.
Any further questions here in Orange County? Or online? Are there any questions online? Oh, there's a question back. Okay.
Thank you. You mentioned 505(b)(2) pathway.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about what happened before and what the innovation is that you're bringing forward through that?
The drug that is given by injection currently, it's already approved. So FDA has 2 different routes of approving a new drugs. The innovator drugs, which takes, everybody knows it's hard to get approval. 1 out of 10,000 gets approved. It takes 12 years, $2 billion. That's your innovation approval. And we cheer for those companies. It's very hard journey. And there's a second one that is like when existing drug like the pen injection, the patients, it works well for the doctors. The patients are just saying, I can't handle it. I'm just gonna suffer instead of taking the drugs. And that's when you make existing drugs better, and FDA knows that it already works. It's safe, and they know a lot about safety. So they have created a new path of approving a new drug different form, different route, making it better. It's called B2, and that's where we are going because the existing drug doesn't help patients. It's much faster, 4 to 5 years, much cheaper, $100 million instead of $2 billion to get approval. So that is where I am going. And out of 5 approved the drug I mentioned, 4 of them is through the B2 route, and then 1 the long and laborious way. So I know I have done it both way, but I think making good drugs great and for the patient-centric, more than half of the drug approved in USA is through this way.
Kay, we have one more question from the online audience. So can you share bench data on the efficacy of inhalation delivery?
Yes, we are not the first one. There are already clinical trials have gone through before us using the same drug. So there are some human data, lots of animal data available on this approach. Everybody failed because of not the delivery way. All doctors say this is the way you should do. The problem is the actual drug. Actual drug they are using is HCl, salt of the active, and trying to inject HCl solution into your muscle or through the nose. It really is tolerability of patient is the problem. I'm a chemist. I modified a molecule, took the HCl out, and that's how we are able to do this. So it works. There are lots of data that shows it works, just they couldn't do it because without the nanoformulation, you cannot take HCl out of the drug. And any chemist in the audience would know that salt gives solubility, so that can be made into injection solution. But if you take the salt out, it becomes a rock. It's sand. But if you nanosize that rock, it is soluble. So with our nanoformulation, with my chemistry background, we can make this unachievable goal hopefully achieved.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Kay Olmsted. So for our next presentation, I'm going to invite Samuel Velten, CTO of Sunwear, joining us from Switzerland.
Hello there. So
yeah, we can hear you.
Let me share my screen, and I think the video feature will probably start up pretty soon as well.
Yep.
Let me know when that is the case.
We're all good.
Perfect. So I'm Sam. I'm going to tell you a little bit about SunAware, and I'm just going to start with a few numbers. For example, did you know that 1 out of 5 Americans will be diagnosed with skin cancer once they reach the age of 70? Or put it in a different way, that even though skin cancer is not one of the deadliest cancers, that more than 2 Americans die every hour due to skin cancer. And that, of course, comes with a huge treatment cost in the US per year, above $9 billion. And the whole reason for it, or let's say around 90%, is actually caused by overexposure to UV radiation. So UV radiation, especially too much of it, actually causes skin cancer. So one could say, okay, then the solution is easy. Let's just block out UV from our life, right? But no, not enough. UV is actually also not good because we need it for our vitamin D production. And actually around 42% of Americans are vitamin D deficient because they don't get enough UV in the long term. And the underlying problem is that humans don't have a sense for UV. We cannot see it, we cannot feel it. And that's where we come in. We created SunAware, which is a product that helps you to raise awareness for the UV radiation and make informed decisions to have a healthier relationship with the sun. the principle, how it works, is pretty easy. You have a small wearable device that measures the UV radiation, sends it to a smartphone, the smartphone processes it, and actually computes then, along with your personal information, such as skin type and preferences, it computes these recommendations for you. You also can set personal dose alarms so that you're notified when you should start to apply sunscreen or seek shade. The really cool thing about it, especially from my view as an engineer, is it's really cool tech. So this device doesn't have a battery. It never has to be charged. It's completely solar powered. So basically this thing runs whenever you take it out, whenever you want to have it, it's solar powered, it will run. And whenever I talk with our electronic suppliers or so, I actually realize that we're not just saying we're world leading low energy tech. We're actually demanding from them things that they don't get from every customer. So we're at the forefront there. And the other cool thing about the device is also completely waterproof. So you can take it for a swim. It can go with you wherever you want. And it's ultra light. So 9 grams, that's about 1/3 of an ounce. You can put it on your t-shirt and you won't even notice it's there. The app, pretty simple. Customize it, set alarms, tell it if you had sunscreen applications, then it will include that in its computations. But also very essential for us is the knowledge base, that we actually educate people about the sun, about the health effects of UV in really easily digestible short articles that everybody can understand and slowly learn about UV and how to do proper sun protection. Now, people that are using our product tell us that for them, this is peace of mind. It's basically knowing what is out there and knowing how to act. So if you use it for yourself, for example, if you do outdoor sports or to protect your family, to protect the skin of your kids, it gives you peace of mind. And one anecdote that really made me happy when we did the product was a customer called me that was a 60-year-old lady that was pretty desperate because she had her SunAware, but it broke, and she wanted to go on vacation and told me, since I have it, because she had a basal cell carcinoma, since she had it, she actually felt safer in the sun and she knew what to do. And basically, that's why she wanted to go on vacation, didn't have it. Of course, we sent one out, it arrived the next day, she could take it on vacation. So everything went well there. So the cool thing is now, since recently, January 24, it's not only available in Switzerland and Germany, where we started, but also in the US. And one might think, okay, if these guys have started selling it like in this 1.5 years now in just Switzerland and Germany, that probably means that the device is also only used in Switzerland and Germany. But think again, I just did a recent data dump of where we collected the UV measurements. And actually, as you can see, we cover almost all continents except Antarctica. So if somebody of you actually plans a trip to Antarctica, send me a message. I will provide you a sensor that you can take with you. But for the moment, we actually intend to focus on this region here, the United States. Why? It's sunny. People like technology, and actually we have connections to the United States. So we really consider ourselves a Swiss-American startup at heart. Because my co-founder, Steve, actually grew up in the Bronx. He has tons of connections, and it also meant that in the 7 years we have now been working on this, we always had people on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean that were working on SunAware. And now we try to enter the US market. So if you think, oh yeah, that sounds like something cool, you have an idea, you're intrigued by it, or you think, yes, for distribution, we could do this, for marketing collaborations, research collaborations, we're really open to talk about all of these things. We have a clean slate in the US, so will be really interesting to talk to you if you have any ideas for these things. So thanks a lot for your attention. Email address is down here. If you want to contact me, take a picture.
Thank you. Samuel Velton, SunAware. So let's throw it open to questions, both online and here in person in Orange County. Here's a question.
I think you omitted one of the most important facts, which I didn't hear which is the price point. What's the manufacturer suggested retail price of this device?
You can currently buy it for $89 in the online stores. We expect that this is a price that we can also have then in retail stores, pharmacies, or clinics.
Was there another question? Here, go.
Can you address intellectual property protection?
In what sense?
Well, what type of intellectual property protection do you have in the US and Europe?
So one thing is, of course, the brand. And the other thing is, I mean, it's a registered trademark in the US and in Europe and in Australia. And the other thing is really that the technology is kept secret. That's the kind of protection. If you're referring to patents or something like that, yes, I think that would be possible. We went down that route, but at some point we stopped it because we really wanted to focus on getting the product market fit, actually validating that product idea, because it doesn't seem to be easy. If you look around, there have been similar ideas and products, and also quite a few patent applications that are very old. So in our view, that actually didn't make sense at the start. It can become important in the future, but there are still areas where you could go into these things.
Great, thank you so much, Samuel Velten. And for our last pitch, I would like to invite Elias Arjan, CEO of Proven. Thank you. Please come on.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you to the Swiss American Chamber for the opportunity, and thanks to all of you for being here early on a Thursday morning. So just quickly, by a show of hands, who here, either yourself or has a family member that takes some form of a nutritional supplement? Just anything, you or a member of your family, pretty much everybody, right? Do you know if it works? Do you think it works? Do you guess it works? Do you hope it works? Are you sure? Are you confident? How do you know? This is the problem that we have set out to solve at Proven. We are validating the claims of the wellness industry because it is, of course, an unregulated space where we don't have efficacy trials. Next slide, please. So you might be looking around recently and being like, what's going on in the wellness space? For example, something was published in JAMA. They just randomly took 57 supplements off the shelves and tested them. 40% of them didn't even have the ingredients that were listed on the label. You might have also seen that people following wellness influencers online are getting hospitalized following their advice. We are seeing there was some problems recently with children consuming gummies with melatonin and CBD and actually being needed to be taken to hospital. And because of all of this sort of chaos that's happening within the wellness industry, we're kind of looking at this being regulated, maybe potentially over-regulated, for example. So the Attorney General of New York State is currently looking at restricting the sale of supplements in New York State because they're worried about children taking supplements with ephedra and other compounds. So we have a problem here in the wellness space, and nobody really knows how to solve it. Next slide, please. We have decided that I've been working in the space for a long time. I've been a speaker and an advocate for evidence-based wellness, and I'm a regular speaker and contributor in the longevity space. And we believe that there is an opportunity here for us to form a third category. We have the FDA highly regulated biopharma pathway, which we know has to go through, is our one of our presenters said, $1 billion in 10 years, right? That's not going to be the bar for the wellness companies, but the wellness companies who are doing nothing are probably not doing the best service to humanity by just operating under marketing and endorsements from celebrities. That's literally how they sell their products, right? So we need a third category where we can take things direct to consumers, but we know that they work. So we have built this model. We've been working on it for a long time. And what we're doing is we're combining, there is regulation. People say it's an unregulated industry. It's not entirely true. The FDA can flag certain companies for their claims, pass it on to the FTC. The FTC is starting to actually increase their enforcement in the recent, they changed the rules for the wellness industry in December of 2022. Some enforcement letters went out in 23. So there is sort of this ongoing, like slow-moving enforcement. So the regulatory agencies want to see better validation of claims. We have to do that with scientific research. This is the right thing to do for consumers, so that if you're taking those supplements yourself, you can feel that you're confident and it's working for you. It's going to mitigate your risk from a regulatory standpoint. And our belief is the companies that can prove this will end up essentially dominating the industry, because there's it's $4.4 trillion globally on wellness products that we're spending on this planet. And 75% of them probably aren't doing anything. We don't know for sure. So let's prove it. Hence the name of our company, Prove It. Next slide, please. And this is one of the favorite things that happened to me this year. I've been predicting that eventually the consumer was going to catch on to this problem and start demanding clinically proven efficacy. I predicted this was maybe a year from now, or in the next year or two we would see this. But this came out in the McKinsey report in 2024 in January. And the number one way you sell a product right now in Whole Foods is you put natural or organic. Right? That's the thing people look for on the label. Is this natural and organic, and they buy it. Now, look at this. It went from 12% of participants, 12%, not a study, 12% of consumers said organic or natural, cuts it for them, but 60% said if this had clinically proven efficacy, they would buy it on that label alone. That's what consumers want now. And so here at Proven, next slide, please. And we can go into this. There's a lot more here, but we don't have time. So I'm not smart enough to do this myself, as much as I would like to say I was. But I'm sort of the background of the entrepreneur, the serial entrepreneur doing this for many years. Our Swiss connection is our COO, Veronica Besmer, and General Counsel, who is working, co-founder with me, and then Dr. Francisco Cidrao is our Chief Science Officer, 38 scientific publications, a researcher for 30 years. Founders of Institutes of Neuroscience in Brazil, and works with a guest lecturer at universities in India and Italy. And next slide, please. And then what is great is we've built a system where companies come to us at Proven, and we can figure out what's the best pathway to do their efficacy trials on humans, depending on what they're doing. So if they want sports science, we have partners in sports science. If they're looking for somebody who has background in pain, women's health, we have over 100 researchers and partners around the world. Next slide, including over a dozen academic institutions around the world as well. So we've built an entire network that any company can come to us now at any size and scale, and we can now go do a human efficacy trial that's meeting the standard. Remember, a lot of you are in biopharma. We're not trying to meet that standard. We're just trying to prove that this works enough on humans to make it valuable to be sold as a wellness product. Next slide, please. So eventually, the consumer is going to want to know, how do I find this? How do I know a product is proven? That's why we trademarked the name, PRUVN, because now you can go and you look, is this clinically proven? They can look for this on the label. They can see that it's there. And ultimately, what they could do is we're even putting a QR code on the label that they can scan and then see the justification for the validation of the claim that's being made by the product. So we already have some early adopters who have jumped in with us and started to do these trials. Some of these companies, you got to move that because one behind that's the Swiss company, so you got to put them in there. There you go. So KAX was one of the companies. We just completed 2 trials for them. One was a wearable trial using Garmin devices. We were measuring people's from a general wellness standpoint. They originally started in Switzerland. If any of you know KAX, selling is the alleviation of alcohol hangover. So we did an alleviation of alcohol-induced hangover study for them. And recently, we're very proud of, we just signed with the largest wellness device company in the country, Therabody. So we are acting as an extension of their research. So part of the way we work is larger organizations can already do their research internally. They get it to a certain stage, but then they pass it over to our team so they can get that third-party validation. So in many ways, we're almost sometimes replicating their internal research externally and proving that the product works. Ultimately, this is a pretty high standard for the wellness space, and this is really a bar that I don't think a lot of companies can pass, but the ones that will, Like Therabody is growing so fast because they do it right. And there's a couple companies that can do this and could really, really change the way wellness and longevity is practiced around the world. And so with that, I thank you very much. If you want to stay in touch with us, we are accepting clients right now. We are scaling up this year, and we have a lot of companies signing on, and we're just going to keep growing. If you feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or follow us, follow the company Proven on LinkedIn, and would love to have you be part of our journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Elias. Maybe we have time for a quick question.
After the company has the Proven label, does Proven go and do ongoing monitoring of the company's products?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, basically, the companies usually come to us. They already, if it's, for example, a supplement, they've already done toxicology and they're doing some type of lab testing. So we're really doing the efficacy piece. But there is a plan that if they want to stay, like every year, we need to do some type of a follow-up to make sure that the standards are maintained, and that's part of the plan as well, so that that Proven badge would sort of be like an annual license. That's kind of maybe the SaaS model for you business people here, right?
And then I think we need to move to the discussion.
Great idea and a good solution for something that needs a real solution. But what is the validation of the Proven label itself? Like, what prevents someone else from coming up with a similar idea and a similar label? Like, what's the regulation that?
I hope more people do. I'd love to see 20. I'd love to see the whole industry having different organizations that are doing efficacy trials, validating their claims. I mean, we're going to have our validation, and we have different ideas of how we could develop it. But ultimately, the goal is just to create some way that a consumer has any sense of trust and authenticity. And there's other ways we can do that, but there could be multiple people doing this, I guess is what
Sure.
I'm
So
saying.
if my question wasn't clear, say 5 years from now when there's Proven and maybe a couple other things. So we know the FDA's regulation and how it's managed. How would consumer make a judgment on which label to follow and which one?
I mean, I think that's something I'm hoping at some stage we do want to actually be talking, having negotiations with the regulatory agencies. I think we need a new model. We need, like I said, we need a third pathway. We need a third category for this, and we just don't have it. So we got to start somewhere.
I'd like to thank all of our pitch participants. Thank you very much.
Okay,
and
thank you.
let's give a big round of applause. Elias, I'm going to ask you to come back up, and Kay, now we're going to move on to our panel discussion, which will include all of our participants, and also I'd like to invite Dr. Supra Verma. I'm going to pass the baton over to my colleague and fellow board member, Richard Henson, to introduce his panel and lead the discussion.
Thanks, Ron.
You got a mic.
Call him Ron. His name is John.
I'm going to talk to you afterwards.
And feel free to grab a coffee or something to eat while in the transition, not that you completely dry out.
Okay, well, welcome, everybody. We have, do we have our Swiss colleagues online? Okay.
I just want to
Share.
say I ordered 2 Sunaware while we were
Oh,
sitting. It was
really?
easy ordering. Click, click.
Okay, very good. Good job.
That's good.
Okay, well, we get, there's one of them, and the other one is Stefan Volt is coming online. Can we put them both up there? Yes, I'm waiting for them to. Say on, okay. Okay. In the meantime, I'm Rich Henson. I'm a member of the board of directors here at the Swiss American Chamber, and I am honored to be here with everybody. I'm going to ask some questions of you guys, and I want to welcome especially Dr. Verma, who hasn't been introduced to the group yet. Thank you very much for coming, your expertise. So my first question has to do with the fact, you know, these are emerging companies, emerging technologies. Some of them are actually raw startups. Some of them are more mature. But I want to understand from you guys, what are the biggest challenges facing new medical innovations right now?
Other than money?
Yeah, cost would be.
There you go. Money right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your biggest challenge?
Well, us, I think it's the fact that we're doing something that's completely novel. What we're doing has never been done before. So whenever you do that, you know, there's not necessarily a pathway that's paved for you. So we're you know, navigating the terrain.
I'll do that next. Okay.
For us, it's the branding or awareness of technology. We cannot go up to the mountaintop and say, hey, every pharma companies, you know your drug doesn't get into body, nanosize it. We try to do that with webinars and consultant basis, but it is slow going. We've been here for 5 years, and we got one company who's using us for a phase 1 trial, but you know, a lot more needs to be reached. And small company
So
with limited
did you call that a credibility issue?
validation, as well as, I mean,
okay.
companies make technologies, wonderful technologies to be used.
Yeah.
It has to be known first for the other consumers to use it.
Okay.
So once you, let's say, Amgen partner with us, then there's a big blue, you know, publications. But how many companies get to work with Amgen, Pfizer, J&J in their first 2 years? So there's always has to be a first
It can happen.
biter, and
Okay.
then it goes into the map. So that access to the market is probably is hard for new services or technology.
Okay. Dr. Verma, I'm going to ask you to answer the same question,
Sure.
but could you introduce yourself and give us a little more
Sure.
background on what you do? And
Yeah.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So I'm a physician.
Yeah.
I've been working in the pharmaceutical biotech industry for the last 9 or 10 years, though. Devising clinical trials, overseeing drug testing, negotiating with the FDA on study designs and endpoints, and also overseeing some of our main assets for the different companies I worked for, and overseeing kind of the cross-functional asset team. So not just the clinical portion, but then also the kind of the manufacturing, legal, IP, commercial marketing, kind of everything. So a lot of my focus in recent years has been on rare diseases. I was working for a company called Horizon Therapeutics for a number of years, which recently just got bought out by Amgen. The deal closed just about 6 months ago. So now I've been coming into this kind of big pharma space through that acquisition.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of my background.
Okay. And that's one of your biggest challenges is dealing with Amgen?
Yeah. Dealing with,
Okay.
working in a smaller company, we're much more nimble, maybe able to make decisions a lot quicker. Everything kind of moves at a much faster pace. We've, now coming into Amgen, they're surprised at, the timelines that we've created for themselves, which, just could not, exist in a large organization with so much, bureaucracy and so much, so many hoops to jump through and to move the ball forward. So, but I think in general, from a pharmaceutical perspective or drug development perspective, I think one of the biggest challenges is the regulatory environment. The bar just keeps going higher and higher with the expectations are of the FDA and from the medical community for these treatments, and then going back to what Kay mentioned at the beginning, cost, the money to be able to meet those bars is just increases
All right.
as time goes on.
Okay. Stefan, you told everybody about mobile health. Can you, as you answer this question about what are the biggest challenges, can you also give us a little insight on your background, what brought you to mobile health in the first place?
Yeah, I've been working in the telemonitoring space for the probably last 8 years, both in US and in Europe. So a friend of mine introduced me to mobile health a year ago, and that's what I got interested into this solution, because it's addressing definitely the need of especially telemedicine companies that you can access data whatever, collect data from the patient in real time, so to speak. The challenges that I've seen so far that we're facing is, besides what I mentioned before from the payer side, it's a service that the doctors want, the patient want, but it's not being reimbursed. So that's what we're addressing in Switzerland with insurance companies directly, same in Germany, where we apply for that. And in the US, I know it's a pretty market that is maybe more advanced in telemonitoring. When we go to market there, we will have to negotiate with the payers as well. Interestingly, the biggest hurdle was the technology integration. Maybe it's because of the market in Europe. There are so many software providers of hospital systems and practice management systems, and each of them wants an extra fee to integrate our solution into their solution. And that costs a lot of money for a startup. We found a solution in Switzerland through a clearinghouse where we connected to, and they connect us to all the other players in the market. But that seems to be the biggest hurdle, at least from what I'm seeing in Europe, that there's no one connect to all possibility. You always have to connect every hospital, every different system, and you have to pay each to allow shared data. Although we're a SaaS solution, I mean, it's something that always puzzles me in the healthcare industry, how technology is much more advanced what you can do in terms of data communication.
Samuel, can you address the issue of what are the biggest challenges with your innovation? And congratulations on making a sale. Yeah, by the way, during this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what somebody before mentioned. That's really, if you have a new product or even a new product category and you actually have to open up that market, the marketing and communication challenge just becomes much greater. And in our case, the problem is known and there are existing solutions to that problem, but the product is not. So not only do we have to actually communicate to the end consumers, the customers, but even every step in the distribution, actually you have to go and explain and convince them that this type of product is an alternative or is actually something that could help with that problem. So I think it's really the challenge of communication is a big one if you are introducing a completely new product category.
All right, in my circles, the word adoption comes up. What does it take to get people to adopt your solution or your product to solve even if the issue you're addressing is well known? So that's my 2 cents there. I always preach about adoption. So, okay, next big question. In your field, what are the best opportunities? What are the big goals for growth that you see in the horizon? Where are we going with healthcare technology? Where's the growth going to be?
Want me to start?
Would you please? Yes.
Okay. Well, like I said, I do a lot of work in the longevity space, and so I'm sure a lot of you may or may not know, but there's a lot of companies that are coming up, like with new molecules and new compounds, new digital therapeutics, even that they are actually already doing proof that they are efficacious, and they're sort of weighing the decision between, do we go down an FDA pathway, 10 years, $1 billion, or you said 2 billion, which was even scarier to me to hear, or do I just start selling direct to consumers and see if I can just get this thing to market fast? And I'm noticing a lot of companies are just saying, you know what, we're just going to sell it. And so that's also part of, I think, why we're dedicated to what we're doing at Proven, because I think actually the future is a lot more, and this was even the NIH even did published about this, is that there's this new impetus towards DIY health, where the consumer now is starting to take a more active role in their own health journey and management, and wanting to do that more actively and looking for solutions directly, kind of almost in some ways, not necessarily depending on the doctor to tell them everything to do, but figuring out on their own.
But going direct to consumer, does that reduce the regulatory burden?
Exactly. Yeah. You get the consumer. If the consumer wants to pay, then the consumer can just pay for the product, pay for the solution. I know a dozen companies that passed clinical trial level studies and are selling direct to consumer.
But it does affect the kinds of claims they can
Yes,
make.
it does affect the types of claims that they can make, but again, right now, if they're a longevity product, they can be sold at a premium, and they can actually be selling direct to consumers. And I could, like I said, I could name off a bunch of companies. I know. I mean, one of them just raised $66 million from Nestle Health and L'Oreal because of their anti-aging properties of their molecule. So this is happening right now.
Okay. Well, you just hit a hot button right there with anti-aging. So.
Yeah.
Kay, in your field,
Well,
what are
market
the
growth
biggest challenges?
would be for pharmaceutical. We're going through doctors and the reimbursement, insurance. Insurance companies ruled in the prescription field, so every new drug has to go into the peers program, or I don't want to say jargons, but we just have to work with the commercialization team. As a small company ourselves, I've done it before. Like I said, previous company was, I would say, wanting to do it all, both development and commercialization. And you need to be a huge muscle to do that. And we're a small company, and we are going to partner with a big pharma who has the commercial marketing team and dollars to back it up. So we can focus on the sweet spot, and we plan to develop these drugs one a year. So we can do that in the development. We cannot sell new drug and put it into the insurance system one a year. So we will partner with the big pharma. That's our strategy for market growth.
Okay. Dr. Verma, let me modify the question slightly. From a practicing physician standpoint, you have people trying to convince you to adopt their new development.
Sure.
What are the barriers? What are the barriers between the companies with the innovations and the physicians that make the decision to adopt those innovations?
Right. So it's really educating the physician. Physicians are so busy, as it is with their practices and their daily lives and everything else. And there's always new studies coming out, new data coming out constantly, and kind of being able to be aware of that. New information, new data that's coming out is very difficult. So it's really just from a pharmaceutical perspective. That's why there's that constant need for engagement from a commercial and marketing perspective to be out there talking to physicians. A lot of companies are investing more and more into medical affairs teams, which are people with a science background, whether MDs or PhDs, who are out there in the field, kind of talking to physicians and kind of getting their data out, because it's just getting harder and harder because there's more and more data coming out with newer and newer therapies. But kind of going back to the original question, where big pharma's headed, the obesity market, the GLP-1 agonists. I feel like every large pharma company is really investing a lot of money and resources towards that market. They see that as being $50, $60, $70 billion market in the next 5-10 years or whatever. But I say that somewhat jokingly, but I think another area is artificial intelligence and machine learning and what that can really do. Every big company is either starting off their own platform or going out and partnering with other companies that are focused on AI and machine learning and in order to various different applications. But one of the main applications that we're focused on is drug discovery, is figuring out what those ideal target proteins are for a specific disease and figuring out what the best mechanism of action is for a drug to treat that disease and things. So I think that's a big play for big pharma.
Stefan, I'm going to jump to you. Dr. Verma just used the magic word, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is being mentioned everywhere. Do you see it affecting your business and your opportunities for growth? And would you adopt more artificial intelligence technology Is that a pathway to success?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the technology gives us the opportunity to manage the sources much more carefully that we are short of by analyzing the data that you have for the patient and giving him advice if you should go to the hospital, for example, or not, or if you should change his behavior. That is something that reduces the burden on the healthcare systems. And these predictive analytics that we have implemented already, that helps definitely to lower the burden of the system. It's also a little bit of a challenge because we see in Europe that there's an AI legislature coming up. So the regulation will increase again. For startups, that means you need additional resources to focus on this topic. But I think also that it helps to create more confidence in these technologies, AI technologies that you implement. And that is not a bad, I think, side effect of it.
Okay. Samuel, you're next. How is AI going to affect your product? Is it going to give you an advantage, or are you even looking at it right now?
So, aside from I think AI is a little bit of a buzzword or umbrella term for many things, and is probably at the moment slightly overused. So that's why I don't want to directly call it like that, but I see a huge potential, of course, in these technologies, especially with neural networks and just machine learning and data analysis. So that is certainly important. And I think for us, as we are measuring data about a global health problem on a scale that hasn't been seen before. So basically, as you've seen in my presentation, UV exposure is responsible for so many skin cancer cases and huge costs. And basically, we are collecting a really large data set on when people are exposed, at what age, which skin type, and which time of the year. And I think that will become really interesting once we get more and once these things can be connected, actually, to dive into these data sets and to try to actually help to understand these mechanisms even better than we do nowadays.
Okay, today, from an investor standpoint, people with private equity, venture capital, big company, investment funds, et cetera, where is this money going to be flowing in the years ahead of us right now? Where do you think the investments are going to be, and are you positioning yourselves to be there? Are you going to go, or are you going to skate where the puck is going? Lars, what do you think?
Well, I guess I'll break that into two parts. I mentioned, for example, the work we're doing in longevity and wellness. These new companies, a lot of them are raising money or have raised money because there's a lot of discovery. I don't know if you know, there's this company, it's a black box called Altus Labs. They discovered the ability to reverse aging in a mice in a lab in Japan, and within 3 months there was $3 billion in this company called Altos. Bezos put $1 billion in himself. So in the longevity space, there is no loss of investment. It's actually one of the few places I see that a lot of my colleagues are just announcing, we just raised $200 million, we raised $20 million, we raised $66 million. I'm just hearing that again and again because people don't realize how fast this is going to happen. The next transformation of technology is going to be on us. It's not going to be new phones or new apps or all the technology has transformed the world around us, but now it's going to transform our bodies. And I actually don't think it's going to be just I think pharma is actually like you mentioned, your challenges at Amgen since you came in and how you were so nimble before. I actually don't think they're nimble enough to keep up. This is happening now. There's things happening every month, and they can't keep up. So that's why I think a lot of it is going into private equity, private investment, private labs, direct-to-consumer strategies, because that's really the speed of what is happening. And I'm seeing that happen on the investment side, I'm seeing that happen on the sales side, I'm seeing that happen on the scientific side, and that's sort of part of how we're participating in that at Proven, is those companies, as they get funded, they want to, if they want to sell direct to consumers and they're not going to go through the drug pathway, then we can work with them to get those efficacy trials and then make those the best possible claims they can, because it's general wellness, it's prevention. We're not treating disease. We don't talk about disease. We don't go there. And that's our strategy and approach.
Interesting. Dr. Rumi, it was just brought up, this transition from a small, nimble company to being controlled by a big corporation. Do you see that as an impediment for healthcare development?
I mean, there's pros and cons, obviously, to that. You know, obviously the con would be, you know, not being nimble enough and potentially taking it longer to get drugs to market as a result. But at the same time, there's a lot of what the big pharma companies can offer to, you know, smaller companies that, you know, they're just not able to do, or don't have the funding to do, don't have the resources, don't have the manpower to be able to do. So I think they, you know, can actually be, you know, very helpful in other ways to these, you know, smaller organizations.
So it's an inevitable shift, or
yeah,
will we
I
always
mean,
have
I think it's becoming more and more that way. You know, being able to just, you know, demonstrate, you know, positive results, but then, you know, the bar so high to get a drug approved, and then after you get approval, that's just the beginning. That's just, you know, now you're going to have to build a commercial team and marketing team and this whole new apparatus that, you know, most of these smaller companies aren't really designed for. And that's where, and everything obviously is costs keep going up and up.
You're describing this 10-year journey for a drug development to commercialization.
Yeah.
Which you're right, a small company can't handle it, but they can be innovative and develop the new drug. So is it true that we'll always have an environment where there's always startup, new emerging companies with the new ideas, and then eventually they get absorbed by the successful ones get absorbed, and then that cycle just keeps repeating itself?
The market says big pharma's dry powder, their funding to invest in the small pharma makes up 75% of the market cap of every small pharma collected. So today, big pharma pretty much has capability to absorb 75% of the small pharma. And they are picking and choosing. And this, I see, will be it's the best of the both worlds. Big pharma cannot, because of their size, they cannot move as fast. And small pharma moves very fast, but because of limitation and the resources, they cannot go. They get slowed down once it gets too close to the market. Like, we don't plan to do any commercialization. Small pharma cannot do commercialization like big pharma do. So, you know, making left hands and right hands work together, we need both hands. We need small pharma and big pharma working together.
All right, before I ask more questions, is there any questions from the audience? Sergey, in the back there, yeah.
Thank you. Richard, hi. Dr. Olmsted, I was actually intrigued by your first remark. I mean, I'm an investment banker. I pitch companies to some of the big strategics all day long. So I feel your pain, because also on the company side, they get anywhere between 300 to 500 proposals and pitch decks a month, and so they quickly have to be able to sift through that. And as I was listening to Mr. Arjan's presentation on Proven, I was kind of connecting the dots on the technology side. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with Gartner Group on the technology side. This is a company that for years has kind of endorsed startup technology companies, and soon as you get into what they call the magic quadrant, that's kind of a jump board for you to kind of get more visibility in the market. Of course, it's paid for. But is there a model, something like that, where instead of just helping companies on a regulatory pathway, that you can also kind of validate the efficacy of their product, put a stamp of approval, and maybe help make introductions through that with some of these bigger strategics, either for M&A or for investment or for just commercial or licensing deals. So.
I thought clinical trial paths do that today. Like if you do the phase 2, you are validated for proof of concept for efficacy. If you are into phase 3, you're validated for close to the market.
But that doesn't necessarily set you on a commercial track, though. I mean, I see this all day long, every day, because there's so many submissions that just disappear in oblivion.
I mean, I think with part of what we're doing, because a lot of the companies we're talking to are in various stages of funding, right? And so I think to a lot of them, we actually even have a program where we basically just do an analysis, and then we give them a report that they can take to investors for use allocation of funds. So we could say, like, over the next 18 months, these are the tests you want to do, these are the costs that it's going to be. But I think what you're talking about, if I understand your question, is like how do we get that market gap? Even if they have that efficacy trial, how do they get more market share, right? Is that kind of part of what you're saying? And I think that is where investment comes in, right? Because now that they have that, say, whether it's a proven stamp or the clinically proven that consumers are looking for, you still have to get out in the market and compete. And you have to educate the consumer now that they're starting to look for this clinically proven efficacy and wellness, but they still don't exactly know what to look for. So we still have a gap, right? We're still a little bit ahead of where the market is, and we're going to have to just develop it. I do think it's going to happen quickly, and I also think we need to find a better way to work with regulators so that they can help us, because ultimately they're concerned about this too. And a lot of people in my industry are kind of like afraid of regulators, and I think we need to work with them and show the right respect for pharma, for the regulators, for all of the different pieces here, right? Ultimately, the goal should be improving health outcomes. We're all on the same page. Let's just focus on that.
Okay, I understand we have some questions from the online audience.
Exactly, yeah. Ravi asks us, where do you see gene editing and precision medicine fitting into this framework?
Yeah,
Dr. Verma.
I think we're just at the initial cusp of that entire space. Gene therapies, cell therapies, stem cell therapies. We've seen a few approvals in kind of all these areas, but I think the knowledge that we've kind of gained over the last 5-10 years in these areas is going to be very important, kind of going forward, and kind of layer on, artificial intelligence, machine learning, into kind of being able to, once again, identify, what the best molecules are, the best assets are, best targets are, to go after some of these diseases. I think it's going to be a big explosion in those areas.
Okay, so they should have a CRISPR course at the
Yes.
medical
Yeah.
school.
Yes.
Okay. Is it one question? Do we have another one? Okay.
And I think she also mentioned personalized medicine. I think there's also AI will also allow for patients to be able to get their own kind of genetic data and match that with their medical records in order to kind of create more tailored and specific patient approach treatments as well. So
okay.
Can I just add one thing? One of the things I think it's interesting with personalized medicine, and again, I'm more on that wellness longevity stand, is that you have personalized medicine that is disease, and you have personalized medicine that's preventative. And we need to go more, with 60% of Americans having chronic disease, we need to start looking more what's that preventative pathway, because that's, again, why pick up people when they're drowning? Let's go upstream and find out where they're falling in, right? And that's, I think, part of what personalized health interventions can do, and gene therapies, all these things, we can be preventing people from even hitting disease. Let's go upstream and save them earlier.
So this preventive nutrition or the wellness, is that like nutrition by blood type or your...
Oh yeah, genetics. So you have genetics, you have nutrition, like your genetics and even your microbiome, right? We can do microbiome testing now, and we can figure out what is it actually the bacteria in your stomach better at eating, and what foods do you absorb better, and what foods don't you absorb, and then how do we supplement your microbiome so that you're able to absorb those foods because you're not even extracting nutrition because you are deficient in that area. We can do that test right now. I have people do it. I know doctors doing those tests in their offices every day.
Well, is there a company who does it more validated way of typing people and giving recommendations?
Yeah, you go to any functional medicine doctor, there's cellular therapy practitioners. As a physician, come join me at Peptide World Congress in Vegas in 2 months, and you'll see all of the science, all of it's laid out there in that event, and it's all there. It's all happening right now. This is not, people think this is like science fiction future. Like right now, I know hundreds of doctors treating people with personalized preventative medicine in their office every day.
And do you see that as a field that doctors will specialize in?
They already are.
Okay, so how does that work? In other words, how do you know which doctors?
The only problem is it's right now it's cash pay. Like that's the only problem. It's not covered by insurance. So if anybody wants to look it up, go to the website A4M. And there's a whole conference where all these doctors are working together, and you can even go and find the doctors that are certified by A4M and go to their website and see what they're doing.
How do you spell it? A4M?
Yeah, A4M. Academy, it's the Academy for Anti-Aging Medicine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we've run out of time, and I want to thank everybody and our two colleagues in Switzerland, Samuel and Stefan. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to be here for another hour, I think, for networking. If people, now, do you have any other further wrapping up remarks to make?
One or two.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. No, please stay seated so we can take a couple pictures with you guys. So please help yourself. Coffee, bagels, sweets and stuff afterwards. Thank you very much, guys, for organizing this. Richard, John, for making this happen. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And a very special kudo and cry out loud and thank you to Siana Scheidecker, who was the master of technology for tonight and hopefully also in the future. So you got the job, that's for sure. Thank you so much. It's a POC, right? So thank you very much for participating here. Also our friends in Switzerland, thank you for joining and contributing to the discussion. How was it? Do you like it? Is this a good format going forward? Yeah? Excellent. So I promise we will continue doing that even better, even bolder. So thank you very much. We are concluding that for today and hope to see you soon. Follow us on www.saccla.org. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.